Before the fireworks, before the castle, before the magic that defined a century, there was a boy walking alone through the dark streets of Kansas City. Every morning at 4:30, he hauled a sack of newspapers through the freezing wind. His hands were cracked, his face numb, and if he missed a delivery, his father's anger was waiting. That boy's name was Walt Disney, and he was already dreaming of something better. He didn't have money or connections or much kindness at home. What he did have was imagination. Wild, restless, impossible to contain. Between deliveries, he would escape into a world that only existed in his mind. A world where the good guys won, where laughter mattered, where magic felt real. Years later, he tried to build that world. His first studio collapsed. His first big character, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, was stolen by his own distributor. Most people would have given up. Walt didn't. On the train ride home, broke and betrayed, he began sketching a mouse with oversized ears and endless optimism. That mouse would change everything. Mickey turned failure into fame. But Walt wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing wonder. When he told Hollywood he wanted to make a full-length animated film, they laughed in his face. Disney's Folly, they called it. Then Snow White premiered, and the laughter stopped. The movie broke records, saved the studio, and turned animation into art. But success never lasted long for Walt. War drained his audience overseas. A strike shattered the trust inside his own studio. Debt piled up, and while the world thought Disney had peaked, Walt was planning something no one could imagine. A park. A place where stories came alive. Where adults could feel like kids again. They called that idea Crazy 2. And when Disneyland opened in 1955, riddled with malfunctions, heat, and chaos, they called it a disaster. Until the next morning, when the crowds came back and never stopped. At 65, still restless, Walt began designing something even bolder, an entire city of future, Epcot. But he never saw it finished. Lung cancer claimed him in 1966. His brother Roy completed the dream in Florida and named it Walt Disney World. 2 months later, Roy was gone too. With both founders gone, the empire stood, glittering, powerful, and suddenly leaderless. Through the 1970s, the magic dimmed. The films faltered. The company drifted. And by the early 80s, something darker was creeping in. Corporate raiders, boardroom politics, and whispers that Mickey Mouse himself might soon be sold off for parts. This is part 1 of the Disney saga. How a paperboy built a kingdom from nothing, lost it more than once, and proved that imagination can outlast almost anything. It's 4:30 a.m. on a bleak winter morning in Kansas City. An icicle-laden wind howls down empty streets. A skinny 9-year-old named Walt Disney hauls a canvas sack of newspapers, nearly half his weight, one agonizing step at a time. The bitter cold cuts through his threadbare coat like a blade. He slips on an icy porch step. Bam! Down he goes, newspapers scattering across the frozen ground. For a moment, he just lies there, breath fogging in the darkness, But he can't stop. He scrambles to his feet, gathers the scattered papers, and pushes on. If he is late, his father's anger will be far worse than any blizzard. For 6 relentless years, young Walt repeats this punishing routine. Pre-dawn deliveries, numb fingers, no breakfast. Yet somehow, in this brutal grind, a spark glows inside him. Between houses, he imagines a brighter world. One filled with characters, adventures, and endless laughter. One day, he will bring that world to life. 1906, Marceline, Missouri. Walt's early childhood feels like a storybook. Born in Chicago in 1901, he is only 4 when the family moves to this idyllic farm town. Marceline's bustling main street, friendly neighbors, and passing steam trains capture his vivid imagination. Even then, Walt can't resist doodling, sometimes on paper, sometimes on the side of the barn. His strict father, Elias, doesn't share the enthusiasm, believing in hard work above all else. When crops fail, the family relocates to Kansas City, where Walt's carefree days vanish into a harsh paper route before dawn. Still, Walt finds moments to fuel his creativity. He sketches by lamplight, marvels at silent movies, and dreams of escape from his father's iron rule. At 16, restless and determined, Walt forges his age to join the Red Cross in World War I. He crosses the ocean to drive ambulances in France, decorating them with cartoons that bring smiles amid war's aftermath. By the time he returns to Kansas City in 1919, Walt is no longer a child. He's tasted independence, and there's no turning back. Back home, Walt stumbles into the fledgling field of animation. He lands a small job drawing cartoon ads, then becomes obsessed with making drawings move on film. At night, he experiments with a battered camera in his father's garage, learning animation frame by frame. It's a revelation. Art could come alive. With starry-eyed ambition, Walt forms a tiny studio called Laugh-O-Gram. Films in 1922, determined to produce fresh, modernized fairy tale cartoons. He's only 21, but bursting with hope. The first Laugh-O-Gram shorts sparked local excitement in Kansas City. Walt and a handful of young artists, including his talented friend Ub Iwerks, pour heart and soul into these quirky mini-films. Money is tight, but morale is high. For Walt, it feels like destiny. Finally, he is building a creative empire on his own terms. What he doesn't realize is that harsh reality looms over this brave little studio. Within a year, Laugh-O-Gram's finances will collapse under the weight of unpaid bills and unreliable clients. And when it does, Walt's entire world will come crashing down. (1923) Kansas City. The dream ends with a whimper. Just months after its promising launch, Laugh-O-Gram Films stands bankrupt. Debt crushes the fledgling studio. Clients fail to pay, and animators depart for steadier work. At 21 years old, Walt Disney watches his first big venture crumble under him. Most people would quit and fade into obscurity. But Walt, he takes the last of his money, $40, and buys a one-way ticket to Hollywood. Arriving in Los Angeles, Walt reunites with his older brother Roy, who's recovering from tuberculosis. They hatch an audacious plan, Disney Brothers Studio, a new cartoon outfit right in the heart of the movie business. At the time, no one in Hollywood is focusing on animated films. Walt sees opportunity where everyone else sees risk. On October 16, 1923, they register their tiny venture, fueled by desperation and wild hope. If this fails, there is no backup plan. By sheer luck, the Disney brothers land a contract for the Alice comedies, a series blending live action and animation. It's enough to keep the lights on, and Walt seizes the chance to hone his storytelling. Then comes Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, Walt's first breakout cartoon success, distributed by Universal Studios. Audiences fall in love with the mischievous character, and the Disney name begins echoing in animation circles. For the first time, Walt tastes that thrilling rush of triumph, sweet, addictive success, and he's hungry for more. But something dark is lurking on the horizon. Unknown to Walt, the very partner distributing Oswald has plans to cut him out entirely. In the next chapter, that secret betrayal will explode, nearly destroying everything Walt has built once again. Walt Disney is riding high on Oswald's success. By 1928, the young producer feels unstoppable as he boards a train to New York City to negotiate an even better contract for his beloved rabbit character. He has no idea he is walking into an ambush. In a brutal shock, Walt discovers that his distributor has swiped Oswald right out from under him, not only stealing his character but also poaching his best animators. Walt is devastated. This was more than a business deal. Oswald was like a family to him. Now, in one meeting, he's lost everything again. Most people would have been crushed. Walt, he gets creative. Instead of surrendering or lashing out in anger, Walt finds inspiration on the long train ride back to California. In that darkest moment, with his career on the line, Walt sketches a new character, a cheerful little mouse with big round ears and boundless optimism. Mickey Mouse is born. It's a risky move. Who would want to watch cartoons about a mouse? But Walt pours all his hopes into this scrappy character. That same year, Walt releases Steamboat Willie, a cartoon starring Mickey that features something revolutionary for its time: synchronized sound. Audiences are astonished. Mickey Mouse dances and whistles on screen, and the world falls in love. The film is a sensation, and Mickey becomes one of the most recognizable characters in history almost overnight. Walt Disney has snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. But triumph has its own challenges. Mickey's soaring popularity sets Walt's ambitions even higher. Now that he has the world's attention, Walt decides to attempt the impossible. A dream so daring that even his own team calls it Disney's Folly. In the coming years, Walt will risk everything again on a single project, and the entire industry thinks he's finally gone too far. It's the mid-1930s, and Walt Disney is about to stake his entire empire on an idea everyone calls madness. He announces he will produce the world's first feature-length animated movie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The Hollywood elite snicker behind his back, derisively dubbing the project Disney's Folly. No one believes audiences will sit through a full-length cartoon. Walt's wife and brother try to talk him out of it. Bankers warn him he is going to bankrupt the studio again. But Walt doesn't back down. He pushes forward with single-minded passion, pouring everything he has into Snow White. Very quickly, the production spirals out of control. Walt hires an army of over 300 artists and animators, and the costs skyrocket to 400% above the original budget, draining Disney's resources and pushing the studio to the brink of insolvency. As the money runs out, even Walt's brother Roy, usually the financial rock of the company, is pale with worry that this truly will be Walt's folly. By 1937, on the eve of the film's debut, the Disney studio is teetering on the edge of financial ruin. If Snow White fails, Disney Productions will go down in flames. Opening night, nervous animators wring their hands as the theater lights dim. Walt watches from the back, heart pounding. Then the film begins. And magic unfolds. When the final credits roll, the audience erupts in thunderous applause. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is a smash hit when it premieres in December 1937. Critics hail it as a masterpiece and audiences can't get enough. The movie becomes the highest grossing film of 1938, rescuing Walt's studio from the brink. The doubters eat their words as Walt earns both fortune and respect in one stroke. By the end of the 1930s, the Walt Disney Studio is on top of the world, flush with cash from Snow White's success. Walt begins expanding, planning new films, new innovations. His wings are growing bigger by the day. But just as Disney reaches its highest peak, storm clouds gather on the horizon. The world is barreling towards a global war, and Walt is about to face an internal rebellion that will nearly tear his studio apart from within. Let's pause for a moment. In today's fast-paced world, success isn't just about working hard. It's about staying ahead, solving complex problems, and delivering real results. Whether you are navigating business challenges, optimizing processes, or driving innovation, having the right skills is what sets you apart. That's where Advanced Innovation Group Pro Excellence, popularly known as AIGPE, comes in. We offer globally recognized certifications designed to elevate your expertise in process improvement, quality management, and business strategy. Our Six Sigma certifications, White Belt, Yellow Belt, Green Belt, and Black Belt empower professionals to master operational excellence. Plus, we provide specialized training in lean methodologies, Minitab analytics, project management, AI, and quality specializations, equipping you with practical skills you can apply immediately. AIGPE certifications are CPD accredited, and we are an authorized training partner of the Project Management Institute. We are also the recertification provider of choice for the Society for Human Resource Management, or SHRM, making our programs a valuable asset for your career growth. Whether you are an individual looking to advance or an organization seeking to upskill teams, AIGPE's courses provide industry-recognized expertise that drives results. And here's the best part. These programs from AIGPE are incredibly affordable. You can gain cutting-edge expertise for less than the cost of your daily coffee. Get started today. Click the link in the description to explore. Now, let's get back to our video. The 1940s arrive with a vengeance. World War II explodes in Europe, and suddenly Disney's international revenue dries up. Walt's next films, Pinocchio and Fantasia, both 1940, stumble at the box office, in part because war has closed off the European markets. The studio that Snow White built is now bleeding money. By 1941, Disney Animation is deeply in debt and struggling to stay afloat. Walt is forced to make tough decisions. He launches the company's first public stock offering and slashes salaries to cut costs. These pay cuts ignite a power keg. Long simmering resentment in Disney staff erupts into a full-scale animator strike in 1941. Walt Disney, the man who always saw his employees as family, feels betrayed as picket lines form outside his studio. The strike lasts 5 weeks, an ugly battle that leaves Walt's trust in his staff shattered. Dozens of his best animators quit in anger. Walt, disillusioned and heartbroken, decides he needs a break. He leaves on a government-supported goodwill tour of South America while the strike is settled without him. By the time he returns, the old camaraderie at Disney Studio is gone, replaced by an uneasy quiet and scarred relationships. The Magic Kingdom is cracking from within. And then, December 1941, Pearl Harbor. The United States enters World War II, and the Disney Studio is commandeered for the war effort. Instead of fairy tales, Walt's team now churns out training films for the military and propaganda cartoons featuring Donald Duck fighting Nazis. It's work that pays only enough to cover costs, keeping the lights on but yielding no profit. Morale is low. Walt's creative spark is dimmed under the grim weight of war. By 1944, the company is $4 million in debt and on the brink of collapse. In a tense meeting, Disney's bankers consider pulling the plug. But then, something remarkable happens. Armando Giannini, the legendary founder of Bank of America, stands up and tells his worried colleagues, "I've been watching the Disney's pictures. They are good this year, they are good next year. You have to relax and give them time to market their product." The banks extend Disney a lifeline, buying Walt a little more time and a ray of hope. When the war finally ends, the Walt Disney Studio is bruised but alive. Walt releases Cinderella in 1950, a much needed hit that begins to lift the company out of its slump. Still, the scars of the strike and war run deep in Walt's soul. He is grateful his studio survived the 1940s at all, but he is also restless, itching for a new direction. The world has changed and Walt knows he must change with it. Animation alone isn't enough anymore. As the 1950s dawn, Walt Disney turns his gaze to a bold new dream, one that will take him far beyond the realm of film and into uncharted territory. By the early 1950s, Walt Disney has a new obsession. He envisions a place where dreams come to life in the real world, a theme park unlike any ever seen, Disneyland. The very word sounds ridiculous to the cynics in Hollywood. An amusement park? They call it Walt's latest folly, convinced it will bankrupt the studio just like they predicted with Snow White. But Walt's mind is made up. He starts secretly buying up orange groves in Anaheim, California. He pours millions into the fantastical project, persuading the fledgling ABC television network to invest in exchange for a weekly TV show, trading content for cash and publicity. Disney is literally betting his life on Disneyland. As construction roars ahead in 1954, skeptics sneer that Walt has finally lost it. Even his brother Roy, the cautious money man, fears this will lead to ruin. The project overruns its budget and schedule, forcing Walt to push his crews at a breakneck pace. On July 17, 1955, opening day arrives. The media has already dubbed the lead-up Black Sunday, expecting disaster. Walt's Folly, they called it, and now it's showtime. The opening day is famously chaotic. Invited guests have their numbers swelled by thousands of uninvited visitors with counterfeit tickets, leaving the park dangerously overcrowded. Rides break down in the 100-degree heat, and a plumber's strike leaves some drinking fountains dry. Walt is mortified as he watches his grand debut falter. But he refuses to let a rocky start define his dream. In the days and weeks that follow, Disneyland finds its footing. Families pour through the gates, wide-eyed and laughing. The park that experts predicted would fail becomes an overnight sensation. Over 70 million Americans tune in to watch Disneyland's opening day broadcast on TV. And soon, the park is filled to capacity day after day. Walt's Folly is a folly no more. It's a revolutionary success that changes entertainment forever. With Disneyland thriving, Walt finally silences the naysayers once again. By the late 1950s, he is not just a filmmaker, but the visionary ruler of a magic kingdom on Earth. Walt Disney has never been more triumphant. Yet, in quiet moments, he is already dreaming up his next adventure. An even grander park on the East Coast, plus a futuristic city utopia he calls Epcot. He sketches plans late into the night, driven as always by relentless imagination. But fate has a cruel twist in store. Walt doesn't know it, but time is running out. And the next chapter of the Disney saga will be the most heartbreaking yet. In 1965, at the peak of his success, Walt Disney launches his most ambitious project ever, a new Disney World in Florida, complete with his experimental prototype Community of Tomorrow, Epcot, at its heart. Walt is pouring his soul into designing a utopian city and a sprawling magic kingdom to accompany it. But destiny intervenes in the cruelest way. Walt Disney, the creative genius who seemed larger than life, is diagnosed with lung cancer. A lifetime of relentless smoking catches up to him. On December 15, 1966, Walt Disney dies at age 65. The news stuns the world. The man whose imagination built an empire is gone, just when his grandest dream was underway. An era has ended, and the kingdom suddenly has no king. Grief hangs heavy over the entire Disney studio. Walt's employees, who affectionately called him Uncle Walt, are devastated and directionless. But one man steps out of the shadows to carry on Walt's last wish. Roy O. Disney, Walt's older brother and lifelong business partner. Roy had planned to retire, but he just can't walk away now. He makes it his mission to fulfill Walt's final dream in Florida. In 1971, Roy oversees the grand opening of the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, a triumphant realization of Walt's vision. At the dedication ceremony with Mickey Mouse by his side, Roy officially names the resort Walt Disney World, so that everyone will remember whose dream built this paradise. Just 2 months later, in December 1971, Roy Disney dies of a stroke. It's a double blow. In the span of 5 years, the Disney company loses both of its founding giants. The guardians of the dream are gone. For the first time, Walt Disney Productions is left in the hands of managers outside the Disney family. A new generation of executives, names like Don Tatum, Card Walker, and Walt's son-in-law Ron Miller, take the helm. They are competent businessmen, but they are not Walt, and they know it. As the 1970s unfold, the big question looms. Can Disney survive without Walt's guiding magic? The next few years will test the company in ways never imagined. Without Walt's bold creativity and Roy's steady hand, the once unstoppable Disney empire starts to drift, vulnerable in a rapidly changing entertainment world. And in the shadows, new challengers to Disney's crown are emerging, waiting for the right moment to strike. The 1970s become a difficult journey through the wilderness for the Walt Disney Company. In the absence of Walt's visionary leadership, the company struggles to find its identity. Sure, they produce films, animated features like The Aristocats, Robin Hood, and The Rescuers, but something is missing. Critics dismiss many of these films as pale imitations of Disney's past glory. It's clear the magic is fading. In fact, the 70s are often considered a low point in Disney's history, especially from a business standpoint. The once innovative studio now seems stuck in a rut, looking to its past rather than the future. Television, which Walt conquered in the 50s, is no longer yielding hits. Only a couple of modest shows, like a brief revival of the Mickey Mouse Club in 1977, make it to air. As Disney falters, upstart visionaries seize the audience's imagination. Young filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas usher in the new era of blockbuster adventures and sci-fi epics. In this age of Jaws and Star Wars, Disney's offerings feel quaint and out of touch. The company tries to ride the sci-fi wave with a film called The Black Hole, 1979, but it proves lackluster compared to its rivals. The once mighty Disney studio now appears clumsy and behind the times. Meanwhile, Disney's theme parks have become the financial crutch keeping the company afloat. The success of Disneyland and Walt Disney World is practically the only thing bankrolling the struggling film division. By the early 1980s, cracks in the empire are widening. Disney's new films, animated and live action alike, earn mediocre returns. The company's stock price stagnates as investors question Disney's direction. Inside the executive offices in Burbank, there's a sense of complacency, a dangerous calm. But outside, predators are circling. Walt Disney Productions has become a juicy target for corporate raiders. The company's assets, from its film library to valuable real estate, are worth more than its current stock price implies. In the boardrooms of Wall Street, a storm is brewing. The Disney empire, now adrift, is about to face the greatest threat yet, a threat that could end the Magic Kingdom forever. The magic is on life support, and the vultures are closing in. Among them is a ruthless corporate trader named Saul Steinberg, a Wall Street opportunist with one goal: swallow Disney whole. He doesn't care about Mickey Mouse or fairy tales. He sees Disney as nothing more than a collection of assets to be stripped and sold for parts. With Disney stocks at rock bottom after years of misfires, Steinberg pounces. He launches a hostile takeover attempt, quietly buying up shares and threatening to dismantle the company for profit. The Walt Disney Company, the home of Snow White, Disneyland, and generations of childhood magic, is now literally fighting for its life. Inside Disney, panic spreads. The CEO, Ron Miller, Walt's son-in-law, seems paralyzed, unable to inspire confidence that Disney can fend off this attack. Disney's earnings have slumped so badly that it's hard to refute Steinberg's criticism of mismanagement. For the first time, the board of directors seriously consider the unthinkable, that maybe Disney would be worth more broken apart. The company's leadership is out of its depth. But not everyone is willing to let Disney go without a fight. In a dramatic turn, Roy E. Disney, Walt's nephew and the last Disney family member actively involved, decides he cannot stand by and watch his uncle Walt's legacy be destroyed. Roy had actually resigned from an executive role in the company back in 1977, frustrated with its declining creative vision. Now he returns with a vengeance, determined to save Disney from both the Raiders and its own stagnation. Roy orchestrates a desperate counterattack from within. Teaming up with a savvy investor, Stanley Gold, he rallies fellow shareholders and quietly works behind the scenes to find a financial savior. Their strategy? Find a white knight, a powerful investor with deep pockets who could buy a controlling stake in Disney and block Steinberg's takeover. Phone calls fly late into the night. Secret meetings are held. A rescue mission is underway. The situation is dire. Either they find a way to outbid the raider, or Disney, as we know it, will cease to exist. Finally, an unlikely savior emerges. The Bass brothers of Texas, billionaire oil heirs, agree to step in as Disney's white knights. They pour millions into Disney stock, enough to tip the balance. Steinberg's takeover is thwarted. But the drama doesn't end there. Roy Disney knows that merely surviving isn't enough. Disney needs new leadership, new vision, and a future beyond this crisis. In the aftermath of the battle, Disney's board ousts Ron Miller as CEO. In his place, they bring in an outsider with bold ideas, Michael Eisner. A young, brash studio executive from Paramount Pictures is hired as the new CEO, alongside Frank Wells as president. It's a watershed moment. For the first time, someone from outside the Disney inner circle now holds the reins of the Magic Kingdom. In September 1984, Michael Eisner steps into Walt Disney's old office as the company's new leader. As the dust settles from this corporate war, one thing is clear: Disney has been saved for now. The company has snatched itself back from the brink of oblivion, and a new era is about to begin. Walt's kingdom has new guardians, and they are hungry to prove that Disney's best days are still ahead. In the coming years, this bold new leadership will ignite a creative explosion, unlike anything since Walt's time, propelling Disney into heights no one thought possible. But with great triumphs will come new trials, as power and ambition breed their own conflicts. The story of Disney's revival will turn out to be as dramatic as any fairy tale. And thus, our tale of Disney's early rise and fall comes to a close with a note of hard-won survival. This is the end of part 1, but the saga of Disney is far from over. In fact, some of the greatest victories and most bitter betrayals in Disney history are yet to unfold. In part 2 of Disney's epic story, a phoenix rises from the ashes. We will witness how Michael Eisner and his team usher in a Disney renaissance, revitalizing animation with classics like The Little Mermaid and The Lion King. The company will expand into a global media powerhouse, opening new parks and acquiring game-changing franchises like Pixar. But with soaring success comes behind-the-scenes turmoil, creative clashes, a power struggle with studio chief Jeffrey Katzenberg, and the eventual downfall of Michael Eisner himself. New heroes will emerge like Bob Iger, steering Disney into the 21st century with bold acquisitions of Marvel and Lucasfilms. The drama will reach new heights as Disney faces fresh challenges in the modern era, from corporate infighting to digital disruption. The adventure continues in part 2, where the stakes are higher, the triumphs bigger, and the twist even more shocking. Stay tuned, the Disney saga is only getting started.